Welcome to For the Record. I'm Ellie La Liberté. Well, a split verdict. That was a jury's final decision in the high-profile federal trial of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. On Thursday, a jury found Dugan guilty of felony obstruction for attempting to help an undocumented man evade federal immigration officers back in April. But the jury found Dugan not guilty of a misdemeanor count of concealing the individual to prevent arrest. It comes after days of work by prosecutors who have tried to show Dugan intentionally interfered with officers' efforts to arrest an undocumented immigrant. The case has also been highly politicized. FBI Director Kash Patel chiming in on Dugan's arrest back in April. Here's interim U.S. Attorney Brad Schimmel's reaction to the political nature of the case.
While this case is serious for all involved, it is ultimately about a single day, a single bad day in a public courthouse. The defendant is certainly not evil, nor is she a martyr for some greater cause. It was a criminal case like many that make their way through this courthouse every day, and we all must accept the verdict peacefully.
Now, Dugan's defense team also briefly spoke with reporters after the decision.
So obviously he's going to take this seriously as well, and I would just say the case is a long way from over.
Now, the judge in this case did not set a sentencing date immediately following the verdict. Dugan faces up to 5 years in prison on the obstruction count. And Assembly Republicans chiming in. Speaker Robin Vos and Majority Leader Tyler August released a statement that reads, quote, "The last time a Wisconsin judge was impeached was in 1853. If Judge Dugan does not resign from her office immediately, the Assembly will begin impeachment proceedings." This week, we're also remembering the lives lost in the tragic Abundant Life Christian School shooting a year ago. On December 16th, 2024, a teacher and student were killed and 6 more were hurt. Now, in the wake of that violence, Governor Evers created the Office of Violence Prevention. Now, the governor allocated $10 million in federal funding to support grant programs through the office. The applications for the grants opened earlier this month and aim to help, quote, connect the dots between state and local agencies. Now, there are 5 categories for these grants. That includes suicide prevention and firearms storage grants, evidence-based violence intervention and outreach programs, criminal justice-based initiatives, domestic violence prevention initiatives, and school-based programming. We sat down with the Office of Violence Prevention Executive Director earlier. So I want to get started and talk because obviously your office was created in the aftermath of the Abundant Life Christian School shooting. And I want to talk a little bit about what this past year has looked like in the wake of such a tragedy.
Yeah, so our office was created by the Executive Order number 254, where the governor created the Office of Violence Prevention on January 4th of 2025. As you may be aware, it takes some time to get positions created within state government, but that time was spent drafting the basic parameters for our grant program, which we released the other week. I was hired in October to really start with the concrete moving forward with the grant program.
This is not the first time we've seen an office come out of a tragedy like this. I mean, we saw former Governor Scott Walker create the Office of School Safety after the Parkland, Florida shooting. Let's differentiate these, though. I think that it would help our viewers to break down, okay, we have the Office of Violence Prevention and the Office of School Safety. What does yours specifically do?
We're really working on that collaboration piece to try to focus on having a whole government approach to anti-violence, to violence prevention and gun violence prevention. And part of that is also, as I mentioned, that grant program where Governor Evers allocated $10 million of ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, to further communities' violence prevention and gun violence prevention initiatives.
And let's kind of walk people through. I know these grants kind of came online earlier this month. Walk people through how that works.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that is key to this is we tried to make it as easy and simple as possible. The intention was to make it as broad and open to as many organizations that are providing violence prevention and gun violence prevention services, including suicide prevention.
When you think about a state agency for violence prevention, why is this something that the state should step in and be a part of?
I think that is a wonderful question, and we're seeing that, there is such change at the federal level to what sorts of grants are available for violence prevention. So we're seeing states that are stepping up and really putting a priority on ensuring that there are funds allocated for violence prevention. And I think the important piece about a state agency is that we can work with the local violence prevention offices, we can work with other state agencies, and again, this whole government approach to really make sure that we're not duplicating efforts and we're leveraging using the services that are currently available and the funds that we have available to try to meet the needs of our communities.
And this office hasn't been without some pushback. I want to kind of read you a quote here from the Assembly Speaker, Robin Voss.
It takes a bureaucrat to think that another government agency is actually going to be effective. I think what we need to do is to increase funding for our police and public safety services, not create a whole bunch of touchy-feely bureaucrats that are going to go around wasting time, wasting money.
What's your response to that?
I think it's unfortunate. However, I think the effects of violence prevention efforts speak for themselves. We have measures that are performance measures in place that can measure the effectiveness of these grants and see the outcomes. This work has been done before, and we know that it's effective, and we have, again, agencies across the state that are doing this work and are making an impact on their community, and the point of this office is to expand that reach so that we hopefully see less violence and hopefully one day, don't see the mass shootings that we're unfortunately, seeing across the country and across the world. So it's unfortunate that they feel that way, but I think we'll speak for ourselves when we have the grants awarded and we can see the impact that they have on their community.
And I want to talk to, as we head into 2026, what are some key priorities for your office?
First priority is getting the grants awarded and making sure that they have the support in place to carry out their objectives of their grant, and then measuring their effectiveness. I think getting feedback on what is and isn't working well. As I mentioned, that collaboration not only with state agencies, but across all areas of the state.
And since your office was created just a year ago, are there resources that you're still asking the state legislature for right now?
At this time, we're only have one-time funding from ARPA, and that funding ends December 31st of 2026. So beyond that, we don't have any funding lined up. So it would be, helpful to have additional resources allocated from the state.
And I know that that's an issue that the Office of School Safety faced as well, was one-time funds, small funds going into the office, and something that some legislators have pushed for, gotten pushed back. Is that something you're anticipating too with your office, is a little bit of back and forth with the state legislature?
There's no telling. I think what is really critical to understanding is, again, we're seeing a fluctuation at the federal level, and programs are experiencing this fluctuation of unreliable funding from both the federal government and from the state government, and that's leading to challenges where they're having a hard time keeping staff because staff need something that's more secure, and again, that ultimately impacts communities. So what I would hope is that we can see long-term stable funding so that folks can rely on this funding in the future and know that there's going to be a consistent opportunity to apply for the funding.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Grant applications are due January 16th. Our full conversation is up right now on channel3000.com. And in the years since the school shooting, lawmakers at the state capitol have introduced various forms of gun regulation, but much of it has stalled. However, this month, a state lawmaker that represents the ALCS district is looking at a different approach to school safety.
Schools should be a safe place.
That sentiment is the core reason why Marta Hansen volunteers with Moms Demand Action, a gun reform advocacy organization.
We truly believe in a holistic approach to this. It's going to take access to mental health care. It takes safety measures.
And that's why Representative Sheila Stubbs is proposing these 4 bills.
We need to come in the schools and be helpful. It's taking the route that the community asked me to take.
One of the bills would create pre-recorded, standardized lockdown announcements. Another would require that every school safety plan includes procedures for notifying students and their families in the event of an emergency. The third would create a grant program to support volunteers in schools and help students find a trusted adult. And the final proposal would create grants to support school counselors looking to continue their education in mental and behavioral health.
And one of those bills that I rolled out specifically came from a student.
Representative Stubbs says the bills came out of a community listening session that took place just a month after the shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. It was standing room only as people spoke to lawmakers and local leaders about what they want to see to make schools safer.
People came, they showed up, they spoke, from students to community leaders to superintendents to the county elected officials to law enforcement.
And a year later, Hansen says she's looking to find solutions to an issue that's not inevitable, but preventable.
And we work as a community to make our children and everyone safer.
Now, these pieces of legislation are currently just circulating for co-sponsorship. I also reached out to the Speaker's office for comment about gun and school safety legislation. He was not available for an interview. And next on For the Record, the case against 2 former Trump aides in the so-called fake elector scheme in Wisconsin 5 years ago is heading to trial. We take you to the courtroom when we come back.